Welcome to your weekly source of Reddit stories. My mother thinks she entitled to one of my properties, LOL. I haven't seen my since I was 16, and we were in court. So 19 years I haven't had any contact with the mother. She hired a PI to find me, and I still refuse to talk to her. I even have my lawyer send her a formal letter of no contact, and threatened her with a restraining order. She sent this email to me, though my work email. I shorten it, but basically it said, to my name. This is her name, your mother. I thought you would have matured by now and came and apologized to me and your father for what you put us through. Because of you, your father lost his teaching career, and we had to sell our house. However, it has come to my knowledge that you own some properties in my area. So it's only right if you give us one of them as an apology. One of my most expensive properties would be a good fit for us. As soon as you hand over the keys to property, we can finally able to start to heal and get past this misunderstanding that you blow out of proportion. I hope you come to the right decision. Her name. I just can't stop laughing at this. Like, no, I'm not giving you anything. This is just another bit of evidence to help me get a restraining order against she. An entitled father tried to get me kicked out of the store for having big breasts. So, the only reason why the entitled parent in this story didn't go to prison was because I was 18 at the time. But the fact that this happened the way it did still pisses me off. So, when I turned 18, I started working at a call center and often walked around the city a lot in order to avoid my toxic mother. Yes, I know what you're thinking, but I was safe and always had a form of self-defense. I was young but not stupid. Anyways, that year, I experienced another growth spurt and went from a C cup to a DD cup, and I was getting a lot of weird looks when in public. As much as I hate to say it, I was pretty young and naive, so I never thought it was because of the way my body changed, but I preferred to keep my distance from people. One day, I decided that I was going to go to Walmart so that I could pick out some yarn for a crochet project I wanted to work on while at work. We were allowed to crochet as long as we didn't avoid the calls that were automatically answered on our systems. While I was checking out the yarn, I noticed a kid, who looked like he was 13-14, standing at the end of the aisle watching me. Thanks to my history of getting bullied and beaten up, I immediately grew cautious and started debating if I wanted to get my yarn here or go to the Hobby Lobby across the parking lot. Before I could make a decision, an adult man came up and started leading the son off, so I started to relax and think that I was overreacting. That is until the ED came back. ED, excuse me, but where did you get you implants? They look so real. Excuse me? I was really embarrassed and shocked, and I was already getting creeper vibes from this guy. ED, your implants. He waves his hands in front of my breasts and gets uncomfortably close to me. Where did you get them? Me. I was at a loss for words and didn't know if he was serious or just being a creep overall. At this moment, the kid came up and poked at my right breast, and I instinctively smacked his hand away, not caring that he was a kid. Excuse me, but you really shouldn't do that, especially to a woman. It's not polite, and it's considered SA and SH. ED immediately got mad at me and started screaming at me to not touch his son. He said that it was my fault, and that if I didn't want attention like this, then I should keep my fun bags put away. I was in tears and looking around for an escape, especially since the more the ED yelled at me, the closer he got to me. He started telling me that there was no way my breasts were real, and that he needed to feel them to know for sure. He even told me that I needed to let the ES touch them so he could learn the difference between implants and real breasts. Remembering the fact that I had my pepper spray in my bag for any occasion where I needed to defend myself, I usually had a knife too, but that seemed a bit extreme in the heat of the moment. I pulled the can of pepper spray and told them both to step back and get away from me. At this point, an employee turned the corner, having heard us yelling, and saw me holding the pepper spray. He freaked out and called for a manager before coming up and yelling at me, demanding to know what I was doing. Thanks to me being in tears, the ED was able to butt in and started lying to the employee that I was seducing his son and pulled my pepper spray out when the ED had tried to come to his son's rescue. The ES immediately started agreeing with the ED, and the employee was already saying that he was going to call the police while the ED demanded that me and my big breasts get kicked out of the store. Thankfully, at that second, one of my coworkers, a big, burly guy who often gave me a ride at night after hearing that I took the taxi home at night because my mother refused to teach me to drive, rounded the corner, leading a manager right to the mess. The manager demanded that everyone shut up and calm down, and when we had, he turned to me and asked my side of the story. I told them how the ED insisted that I needed to let them feel my breasts to see if they were real, and how I had already explained I wasn't comfortable and didn't want their attention. The ED backtracked on his story and tried to defend himself and EK, saying it was all for educational purposes, and lied that I had agreed beforehand. This is when my coworker got mad and pointed at the camera at the end of the aisle, reminding them that it would have caught everything. The ED and EK both went silent for a moment before making a break for the exit. The manager took off after them, yelling at them to stop, and my coworker berated the employee for threatening me the way he did. Of course, the ED and EK got away, but the employee was fired, and I never went back to that store by myself per my friend's request. Please teach your sons to respect women, and don't harass women. Plenty of us are insecure of our bodies and don't want the attention our bodies attract, and we appreciate it if you don't make things worse for us. Also, never assume that a woman's body is fake or that you're entitled to touch it. An entitled mother insists that I share my Nintendo Switch with her child on my flight. This just happened the other day, and after sharing this story with friends and family, a few of them suggested that I share it here. The scene is a Southwest airline flight. I was sitting in a window seat next to two lovely women, and directly horizontal from us was an empty seat, a mom, and her son. The flight was taking off. For those who don't know, you are required to stay seated and keep your seatbelts on for the beginning of the flight until the captain says otherwise. I was strapped in my seat and decided to take out my Nintendo Switch from my carry-on beneath my feet. "Excuse me, ma'am?" I didn't realize at first that the mother in the seats horizontal from me was trying to get my attention. She unbuckled her belt and moved to the empty seat by the aisle, closer to me. "Ma'am, with the video game!" I lifted my head, but the stranger next to me nudged me as well. "That lady wants to get your attention," the woman next to me muttered. I turned my head to see this woman leaning across the aisle, with her hands on the armrest of the aisle seat in my row. "Sorry," she began. "I just wanted to know if there was any way that my son could use that game for a little while." "I'm so sorry," I began. "My Nintendo Switch is just really important to me. I don't feel comfortable giving it to anyone I don't know. I don't even let my sisters play with it." I was going to continue, but the woman cut me off. "Oh, my son's not like most kids," she replied. "He's not destructive. His cousin has one of those, and he knows how to play." She smiled and set her hand out. The two women seated next to me looked at me, as if they were also in disbelief. "I'm sorry," I said again. "I just don't feel comfortable. I brought it for me." "How old are you?" the woman said with a huff, retracting her hand and slapping it on her lap. "I'm 25, but I don't see how that matters," I replied, growing exceptionally uncomfortable. "Well," she began, clearly sounding agitated. "My son is 8. This is an hour and 45-minute flight, and he just wants something to do. He can't see it for a few minutes." "No, I am not comfortable with that. I'm sorry, but I'm expecting you to understand since this is my property." I put my head down and I unpaused my game as to ignore anything she had further to say. "Are you serious?" She seemed genuinely livid. "Well, insert child's name here. Sorry, buddy. Not everyone knows how to share," the woman said to the kid next to her. Her child started whining and kicking the seat in front of him. "Thanks for this," she said to me. "A sweet kid just wants to share with you and you're being ignorant about it." Before I even opened my mouth, one of the ladies in my row snapped back at her. "How dare you bring that energy on this plane? She told you so kindly that she doesn't feel comfortable with passing her electronics to a stranger." The mother wasn't having it. "She's an adult and can't share with a child for a few minutes of a nearly 2-hour flight? You should have brought something for him to do then," the woman in my row responded. It shut her up good. At the end of the flight, the woman collected her luggage from the overhead bins and said, "I hope you're happy going against God's word, not sharing with a child." Some of the people around us giggled. I'm sure that they all overheard the drama at the beginning of the flight. I've come across some entitled people in my life, but this strange lady took the cake. Entitled mom thinks adults only doesn't apply to her kid at resort pool, removed by staff. My husband and I are currently vacationing at a 5-star hotel. There are 2 separate pools, one for kids' families and the Serenity Quiet one for adults. 21 plus is enforced. Both pools are very clearly marked as such by large signs placed around the perimeters of each. We have been here for a few days and it has been literal paradise. We have not run into many families, kids, and those that we did see were exceptionally well behaved and attended to by their parents. Until today. We went to the adult pool and got set up on 2 chairs. The pool was in front of us, and the hot tub was behind us. It was a tad chilly, so we ventured over to the hot tub, where we saw a kid, about 7, playing with a shit ton of Star Wars toys on the steps. Call me a Karen, I don't care. But this set me off. We came to this resort specifically because of the 2 very separate pools with enforced rules. I want to relax, I don't feel like hearing screaming kids on vacation. I went over to the attendant stand and asked if the hot tub was for families, and if so, was there an adults-only hot tub that we might be directed to? I knew the answer, I just didn't want to come across as too aggressive. I was told that the hot tub was, indeed, for adults only, so I proceeded to tell both pool attendants that there was a child in the hot tub, and I didn't know if his parent was nearby. You guys, both pool attendants were basically like, hell no, and walked very fast over to the hot tub and told a woman who was apparently the mother, EM, of the child, that it was adults only, and they had to leave. The kid was told to get out. Crying, screaming ensued, and he and the mom then just sat on the chairs. But wait, there's more. After about 5-10 minutes, they were still sitting on the chairs in the adult area, and again, the attendant came over and informed them that the area was adults only, and they're not even allowed to sit there, even if they're not actively using the hot tub. EM was pissed, angrily packed up their stuff, and both were ushered out of the adults area. I suspect they were there because the kids' pool area was super busy, and EM didn't want to deal with other kids and/or couldn't score a chair. We tipped the attendants generously on our way out and are already planning our next vacation here. I wish more businesses would realize that not everyone wants to commingle with families' kids. Entitled Mom thinks what's mine is now hers and I'm a complete stranger. I sat down on the train. A little girl sits next to me and her Karen mom sits across. About 10 minutes after train moves, I start playing on Nintendo Switch. Little girl sees it and asks if she can play. I said yes, but ask Mom. Mom says yes, so let her play. I also ask what stop they're getting off at, as I'm getting off few stops before the end of the line. After about an hour, I'm coming very close to station. I said, sorry, sweetie, I'm getting off here. And LG hands switch back to me with a big smile and an even bigger thank you. It's been nice and quiet for an hour, and it was fantastic seeing the happiness on the LG face while she was playing. Then it all went downhill. Enter the Karen. Karen then says, my daughter is having so much fun with the Switch, can't she keep playing? I said no, sorry, I'm getting off at the next stop. Karen goes nuclear and shouts out, my daughter is having more fun with it then. You, what's a grown man doing playing with a children's toy, just give it to her. I said I have given it to her for the past hour to play with while you've been playing with your phone. Karen screams, if you gave it to her, then it's hers and not yours. WTF. I asked her if she heard of the concept of borrowing something and saw my stop coming. Without further ado, I pick up my bag with the Switch packed nicely away. I then said to the LG, you seem like a very nice, well-behaved little girl, please don't turn out like your mother. Walked off the train after getting last word in, breathed the sweet air of freedom, then met mates in the pub where I told this story. Didn't know the whole pub was listening until everyone roared with laughter, and barman gave us a free pint of Guinness. Lovely. This is in England, and until today I thought those Karen beasts existed only in America.